The Magical, Mystical, Marvelous Coat by Catherine N. Cullen. Illustrated by Dave Christiana. The coat that I wear from the fall to the spring is my chunkiest, funkiest favorite thing. But the 6 reasons why it's a magical coat are the buttons that go from the heel to the throat. The first one says cold and the second says warm. The third plays a tune that would calm any storm. The fourth is a star and the fifth is a stone. And the sixth is a doll with a coat like my own. I went out on Monday to see what I'd see, and I saw a young giant who was hot as could be. The trouble, he said, with being long in the leg is that the sun fries my head as though it were an egg. So I bit off my button, the one that said cold, and I handed it up for his hot hand to hold. And when he'd cooled down, he began to emote, "What a mega-cooliferous, marvelous coat." I went out on Tuesday to see what I'd see, and I saw a white swan lying under a tree. Her feathers were frozen, all smothered in snow. Though she struggled to fly, her poor wings would not go. So I bit off my button, the one that said warm. And before long the swan was in fine flying form. As she took to the air, the first song in her throat was, "What a meltificent, marvelous coat." I went out on Wednesday to see what I'd see, and I saw a great ship sailing over the sea. The rain blew so hard and the wind blew so high, the captain and crew began to loudly cry. So I bit off my button that played a sweet tune, and its beautiful song calmed that storm very soon. Then captain and crew, as away they did float, sang ahoy to that maritime, marvelous coat. I went out on Thursday to see what I'd see, and I saw an old wizard who whispered to me, "Since I wore out my wand, at my spells I'm a flop. All I've left is a stick with no magic on top." So I bit off my button, the one like a star, and the way it stuck to that stick was bizarre. When the whiz waved his wand, in the heavens he wrote, "What a magical, mystical, marvelous coat." I went out on Friday to see what I'd see, and I saw a snake searching for something for tea. "I'll slip down this burrow," he hissed with a grin, and 3 frightened bunnies squealed, "Don't let him in." So I bit off my button, the one like a stone, and I rolled it in front of that hole with a groan. As the snake slithered off, the 3 bunnies, I quote, said, "What a most meal-stopping, marvelous coat." I went out on Saturday to see what I'd see, and I saw a small elf who seemed sad as can be. "I've searched down below," he sighed, "and up above, but I can't find a smallish somebody to love." So I bit off my button, the dolly herself, and she yawned, and she stretched, and she smiled at the elf. As they danced in the twilight, they sang with one note, "What a matchmaking, marrying, marvelous coat." On Sunday my mother and father said, "Child, to lose all 6 buttons seems wanton and wild." Before I could answer, the pockets they tried, and 6 magic buttons were waiting inside. So we sewed back the cold, and we sewed back the warm, and we sewed back the tune that could calm any storm. We sewed back the star, and we sewed back the stone, and we sewed back the doll with a coat like my own. As I buttoned my coat, my mother opened the door, and in came a crowd I'd seen somewhere before. Some sailors, a giant, a swan, and an elf, 3 rabbits, 1 whiz, and my dolly herself. We kissed in the kitchen, and we hugged in the hall, and we skipped up the stairs, and we sang one and all. It's fashion, it's couture, it's high and it's haughty. That megacouliferous, truly meltificent, meal-stopping, magical, but mostly just marvelous coat.